The story I'm about to share with you today involves a man named Mr. Chen, a professional driver who started out doing delivery work and eventually became a personal chauffeur for a senior executive at a major corporation. The executive had noticed his driving skills during a late-night trip and offered him a full-time position on the spot. Now, this executive, let's call him Zhang Wei, was a high-ranking officer at one of Shanghai's largest companies. His role as a personal driver wasn't quite like what you'd see in the movies. It was more practical than glamorous. Driving the executive to golf courses, unloading his clubs, handling deliveries, and putting things back in storage when they returned home. One day, the driver was accompanying Zhang Wei on a long trip, starting in Shanghai, heading out to Hangzhou for a business meeting, then moving on to other locations. During that drive, Zhang Wei, noticing the driver looked drowsy, decided to share something that had been on his mind, a story from his own past. Now, I received this story secondhand, so bear with me if the details feel a little scattered. I'll do my best to tell it as clearly as I can. Before Zhang Wei became an executive, he had spent years working his way up through the ranks in the provinces. He worked incredibly hard, got married, and had one daughter. When he finally made it to the executive level, the company relocated him to Shanghai. They provided him with a company residence, a rather impressive standalone house located in the upscale Xintiandi district of Shanghai, complete with a small garden out front. That house had been sitting empty on the real estate listings for 7 months before Zhang Wei moved in. There was a separate owner for the property, but the company had arranged everything. If anything needed to be repaired or fixed, Zhang Wei could handle it himself and send the bill to the company. There was also a condition. He was required to live there for a minimum of 2 years, regardless of how far his work commute might become. For Zhang Wei, this felt like a reward. He'd worked so hard, and now the company was giving him a car, a house, all these benefits. With a proud heart, he moved in with his wife, let's call her Zhu Zan, and their young daughter, Shi Han. And for a while, things were perfectly fine. But then, about 3 months into living there, strange things began to happen. One evening, Zhang Wei came home from work, pulled his car into the garage, the kind with an automatic gate that opens as you drive up. Very upscale neighborhood, parked inside, and came up through the connected interior door. He had dinner with Zhu Zan and little Shi Han, then went to his home office to wrap up some work from a meeting earlier that day. Now, the house had come furnished with a few original pieces, one of which was an old-fashioned wooden cabinet in the living room, the kind you might see in an antique shop. It had horizontal iron latches on the front to lock it shut. They had assumed it was a gift left by the previous owner and left it where it was, right next to the TV in the living room. While Zhang Wei was working in his study around 1 a.m., he suddenly heard a loud crashing and banging sound from somewhere in the house. His wife and daughter should have been asleep by that hour. But when he checked the master bedroom, no one was there, just silence. Then came another sound, the giggling of a small child, followed by the rapid pitter-patter of little feet, like multiple children running across the floor. Zhang Wei froze. He only had one daughter, and this was a single-story house. There was no floor above. He opened the study door and stepped into the living room. Nothing. Just the soft amber glow of 6 recessed lights along the ceiling, dimly illuminating the space around the TV. But then he noticed something. The family photo that had been propped up on top of that antique cabinet. It was face down. He figured his wife must have knocked it over while cleaning. He set it back up and returned to the study. Later, just as he was finishing his work, he heard a loud bang from the garage. Nobody was in the garage. He checked the security camera. and saw that his car's trunk was open. He was certain he had closed it when he came home. He went down to shut it, and the garage was dead quiet. Calm weather outside. No one on the road. He reviewed both the CCTV footage and his car's dashcam. No person. No movement. The trunk had simply opened on its own. He told himself it must be a mechanical glitch and made a note to take the car to the dealership. That was the first incident. The next unusual event involved Zhu Zhan. One day while Zhang Wei was at the office, Zhu Zhan had set the robot vacuum going and was relaxing in the living room. Coffee in hand, snacks nearby, watching a nature sounds program on TV. Shi Han was at her elite private preschool for the day. That's when Zhu Zhan heard something coming from Zhang Wei's study. A low, rolling sound, like a round object slowly traveling across a hardwood floor, followed by a soft thud as it hit something and stopped. Remembering what Zhang Wei had told her about his late-night experience, Zhu Zhan felt a chill. She thought to herself, what in his study could possibly roll and stop like that? Then she remembered. There was a decorative golden globe on his desk. Maybe it had fallen? She crept to the study door and opened it slowly. The desk was the large executive kind. Solid front panel concealing the legs underneath, with open space below. Zhu Zhan looked at the floor. Nothing had fallen. But beneath the desk, in that dark space under the panel, she saw feet. Tiny feet. The kind that belonged to a 3-year-old child. Just standing there. Still. Zhu Zhan quietly shut the door. Her daughter was at school. She knew that. Shaking, she backed away, turned the corner, and found the family photo face down on the cabinet again. She stood it back up, grabbed her bag, and headed out to meet some of the neighborhood ladies for coffee. She needed to get out of that house. About 15 minutes after she left, Zhang Wei's phone blew up with 40 consecutive intruder alerts from the home security system. He pulled up the CCTV. Nothing. But the indoor home camera, the kind that automatically swivels to track movement, was spinning back and forth. And then it locked its gaze on a spot near the couch across from the cabinet. 2 framed photographs that had been standing there slowly tipped over and fell, face down, one after the other. Zhang Wei called Zhu Zhan immediately. She was at a coffee shop just across the street. He left work early, picked up Shi Han from school, and they all went out to dinner that evening. Nobody wanted to go home. Even while they were out, another 30 intruder alerts flooded in. The strangest part? Normal home security systems send 1 alert every 3 to 5 minutes. 30 alerts arriving at once was unlike any system behavior anyone could explain. Unless something inside that house was in constant, rapid motion. Now let me tell you what happened to little Shi Han. One afternoon, Shi Han was in a room on the opposite side of the house from the study, watching an educational English video with headphones on. Suddenly, she screamed, ripped the headphones off, and ran straight to her mother. She said she had heard something through the headphones. Something that wasn't part of the video. The family was nominally Christian. Not devoutly, but they went to church on holidays and believed in a general way. Zhu Zhan, trying to calm her daughter, told her that maybe God was sending her a little message because she was studying so hard. Shi Han seemed to accept that, and that night, Zhu Zhan tucked her in and stayed until she fell asleep. But sometime in the next half hour, while Zhu Zhan had slipped away to talk with Zhang Wei in the study, they heard Shi Han let out a blood-curdling shriek. They rushed in. Shi Han had pulled the blanket completely over herself and was trembling uncontrollably. When they finally got her calmed down, she told them she had woken up to find a small child standing beside her bed, staring at her. That was the breaking point. Zhang Wei and Zhu Zhan took Shi Han to Zhu Zhan's parents' house that very night. Over the following weeks, More disturbing things continued to occur. The intruder alerts kept firing even when the house was completely empty. Eventually, through the company, they were connected with a highly regarded spiritual practitioner, a woman known in certain circles for her ability to sense things others could not. The practitioner refused to enter the house. Stopping about 300 meters away, she told them something deeply unsettling. There was a powerful and dangerous presence in that house, and it was particularly drawn to young children. She warned them that Han should not return under any circumstances. When they explained the situation to her, the cabinet, the sounds, the child's feet, the fallen photos, she asked one very direct question. Had anyone ever opened that cabinet? They hadn't. She told Zhang Wei to go back to the house alone, open the cabinet, and bring whatever he found to her. Inside the cabinet, Zhang Wei found a small child's outfit, blue, decorated with giraffes, and one shoe, just one. He brought it to the practitioner. She looked at it for a long moment, then shook her head and sighed. She told him that the spirit of the child was no longer there. She had been helped to move on. She wrote out a talisman, placed it inside the cabinet along with some other ceremonial items, and had it all taken to an industrial incinerator to be burned. 9 months later, Zhang Wei received a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice, sorrowful, cracking, asked him, "Where is the cabinet? What did you do with my cabinet?" Quote, when Zhang Wei asked who she was, the woman said she was the house's owner. She wanted back the cabinet she had left there as a gift. Zhang Wei, his anger rising, told her what had happened, what his family had been through, and that a spiritual practitioner had told him to burn it. "You burned it?" the woman said, and then the whole story came out. The house owner had a daughter. That daughter had been abducted from the house one night, in the early days, when that neighborhood was barely developed and only a few homes had been built there. The mother woke one morning to find her daughter gone. Only the small outfit remained on the floor. The girl's body was later found, abandoned. The mother had placed that outfit, the last thing her daughter had worn, inside the cabinet. She kept it locked away. And here is the truly unsettling part. Zhang Wei was not the first family to live there after that. There had been another family before him. Also a mother, a father, and a young daughter, about the same age as Han. Similar things had happened to them too. They fled after just a few months. The company had purchased the property simply because the price was right. Unusually low. Perfectly within their budget. Nobody asked why. The house owner's bank account no longer existed. She stopped answering her phone. The company eventually decided to relocate Zhang Wei to a different property in another part of Shanghai, a house that cost 3 times as much in monthly fees. On his first night in the new house, Zhang Wei had a dream. A woman in a wheelchair was holding a tiny child, searching, looking for someone. In the dream, Zhang Wei somehow understood. It was the house owner and her daughter. The child kept saying something, reaching out toward him. He couldn't make out most of it, but the last thing she said, he heard it clearly. "Thank you." He woke up. After that, there was nothing more. No alerts, no sounds, no fallen photographs. Except, for 1 full week after the move, Han would stand alone in the middle of the living room, staring at nothing. Her parents didn't know why. She never explained it, but the driver, the one who told me this story, said he believed she had seen that other child, the one from the cabinet, and maybe, in her own quiet way, she was saying goodbye. That's the end of the story. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this interesting, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new episode.